Buddhism is the fourth largest religion in the world, followed by around 520 million people in the world, which is around 7% of the total world population. It was founded in the 6th century BC by Gautam Buddha of Kapilvastu. He was the person who first explored and taught the concept of mindfulness. And we can safely say that Buddha was the first and original teacher of the ancient concept of mindfulness. The origin of mindfulness can be found in the Satipatthana Sutta, or the discourse on the establishing of mindfulness. The Satipatthana Sutta, along with the later created Mahasatipatthana Sutta, or the Great Discourse on the establishing of mindfulness, are two of the most widely studied discourses in the Pali canon of Theravada Buddhism, and these act as the foundation for the mindfulness meditation practice. But who was Buddha, and why was he called Buddha? Was he a historical person or just a myth? If there was only one Buddha who ever walked on the earth, Buddha is not a name, rather it is a title, which means the awakened one or the enlightened one. Enlightenment is also described as perceiving Buddhahood. Buddhahood, or Buddhhabhava in Sanskrit, means the condition and state of the Buddha. This highest spiritual state of being is also termed sammā-sambodhi or saṃyak-sambodhi in Sanskrit, which means full and complete awakening. What a Buddha is awake to is the true nature of reality. The word Buddha is derived from Sanskrit word Budh, which is translated as one who is awake. Simply, enlightenment is defined as perceiving the true nature of reality and ourselves. Enlightenment is not a quality that some people have and others don't. To realize enlightenment is to realize what already is. It's just that most of us are lost in the fog and can't see it. Buddha is one who, having found the path of cessation of dukkha, or suffering, which is created by attachment to desires and distorted perceptions and thinking, is in the state of no more learning. A Samyak-sambuddha rediscovers the truth and the path to awakening on their own, and then teaches these to others after his awakening. There are also Pratyek Buddhas, Arhat, and Bodhisattvas. A Pratyek Buddha also reaches Nirvana through his own effort, but is unable to or unwilling to teach the Dharma to others. Another person who realizes enlightenment is an Arhat, which means the worthy one or the perfected one. The principal difference between an Arhat and a Buddha is that only a Buddha is a world teacher, the one who opens the door for all others. An Arhat needs to follow the teachings of a Buddha to attain Nirvana, and may also preach the Dhamma after attaining Nirvana. However, for the practitioners of Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhism, the ideal is to be a Bodhisattva, one who vows to remain in the world until all beings are enlightened. Bodhisattva is a key idea in Buddhism. The word is constructed from the Sanskrit root bodhi, meaning awakening or enlightenment, and sattva, meaning being. The core meaning of the word is a being who is on the way to becoming enlightened. enlightened beings have escaped the cycle of existence known as samsara and reached the end of suffering. The Buddha said that this path is open to anyone and everyone. When we say Buddha, we mean Gautam Buddha, the historic founder of Buddhism. He was the prince of the kingdom of Kapilvastu in the foothills of the Himalayas in present-day Nepal, about 2500 years ago. His teachings, after the attainment of enlightenment, form the basis of the Buddhist traditions. The title of Buddha is also used for other beings who have achieved enlightenment before Gautam Buddha. Most Buddhists do not consider Gautam Buddha as the only Buddha. In Theravada Buddhism, the dominant school of Southeast Asia, it is thought there is only one Buddha per age of humankind, which is a very long period. There are multitudes of Buddhas, especially in Mahayana and Vajrayana scriptures and art. They represent aspects of enlightenment, and they also represent our own deepest natures. Some of the better known, iconic, transcendent Buddhas include Amitabha, the Buddha of boundless light; Bhai Satyaguru, the medicine Buddha, who represents the power of healing; and Vairochana, the universal or primordial Buddha, who represents absolute reality. The bald, chubby, laughing Buddha is a character from 10th century Chinese folklore. His name is Budai in China. He represents happiness and abundance, and he is a protector of children and the sick and weak. In some stories, he is explained as a manifestation of Maitreya, the future Buddha. The ancient Sri Lankan Pali scripture called Buddhavansha mentions 29 Buddhas, including the future Buddha Maitreya. The stupa of the past, Kakasunda Buddha, and the birthplace of Kanak Muni Buddha, that is Niglihava, were later discovered near Kapilvastu in Nepal. Simply put, Buddhism teaches that we all live in a fog of illusions created by mistaken perceptions and impurities, hate, greed, ignorance. A Buddha is one who is freed from the fog. It is said that when a Buddha dies, he is not reborn but passes into the peace of Nirvana, which is not a heaven but a transformed state of existence. Coming back to the story of Gautam Buddha, the prince renounced his worldly life and began a spiritual quest. He sought teachers who could help him attain supreme knowledge, and he punished his body with ascetic practices such as extreme, prolonged fasts and living under the open sky. At that time, it was believed that punishing the body through self-mortifications was the way to elevate the mind, and that the door to wisdom was found at the edge of death. However, after 6 years of this practice, the prince felt only frustration. Eventually, he realized that the path to supreme freedom was through mental discipline. At Bodh Gaya, in the modern Indian state of Bihar, he sat in meditation beneath a large fig tree called the Bodhi tree until he achieved supreme enlightenment. From that time on, he would be known as the Buddha. He spent the rest of his life teaching people how to realize enlightenment for themselves. He gave his first sermon in modern-day Sarnath near Banaras. and then walked from village to village, attracting millions of followers on the way. He founded the original order of Buddhist nuns and monks, many of whom became great teachers of Dharma. When the Buddha achieved enlightenment, he also realized that what he had perceived was so far outside ordinary experience that it could not be explained entirely. So instead of teaching people what to believe, he taught them to realize enlightenment for themselves. The Buddha's basic teachings are summarized as the Four Noble Truths. These Four Noble Truths are: life is dukkha or suffering. The cause of suffering is craving. The end of suffering comes with an end to craving. There is a path which leads one away from craving and suffering. The Four Truths directs one towards the Eightfold Path, which serves as a guide to living one's life without attachment and suffering. The Eightfold Path taught by Buddha is right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The events of his life are largely legendary, but he is considered as actual historical figure. The traditional story of Buddha's life may not be factually accurate, but historians today agree that there was a historical Buddha and that he lived sometime between the 5th and 6th centuries BC. Buddha called his teachings the Dhamma, which means cosmic law and not duty. As in Hinduism, the Dhamma is based entirely on the concept of undeniable consequences or cause and effect relationship, known as dependent origination or dependent arising. He taught for around 45 years and built a large following, both monastic and lay. He died at the age of 80 years in Kushinagar, located in the state of Uttar Pradesh in northern India. The Buddha's death is referred as Parinirvana, meaning that he won't be reborn again. The Buddha's teachings and life story were originally transmitted orally. The conventional thinking is nothing was written down about Buddha until the 1st century BC, when the Pali Canon was written in Sri Lanka during the 4th Buddhist Council held under the patronage of the great Sri Lankan king Vatagamani Abhaya.